Applying Marketing for People and the Planet. Today, we are here with Professor Sharyn Rundle-Thiele. Hello, Sharyn. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Park. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. And thank you so much for coming back here one more time. Let's start with the first question of what is the meaning of applying marketing for the people and the planet?
So I basically have been involved in a field called social marketing, which emerged 50 years ago when people like Vivi said, could we market ideas just like we can soap? And Philip Kotler certainly made social marketing very popular and was followed by colleagues like Nancy Lee. I only discovered social marketing back in 2010 and famously came home from a sabbatical in Canada where I'd met people like Associate Professor Samir Deshpande, Professors Deborah and Michael Basil and Walter Weimer, who took me to a conference where Philip Kotler was speaking. And that's where I met social marketing the first time. And my trip home was very much coming back in and settling into Griffith University with a clear mission and plan. And that was, could I establish a centre, which today is called Social Marketing at Griffith. But when I talk about applying marketing for people and planet, that is exactly what we're doing. We take the philosophy, the tools, the tactics of marketing, and we get in and do deep dives to understand how can we actually protect the environment. So some of the jobs I do are things like, can I get less pesticides in waterways? Can I get residents to pick up leaves to take them away from gutters and drains because they're actually litter? Can I actually get adolescents to think differently about alcohol and potentially say no rather than yes? Or could I get people to actually make healthier food choices? And then more recently, can we actually get and protect people who are at risk of violence? Or could we get more women involved in STEM? So when I talk about protecting people and planet, we've got marketing and we've applied it to a social, an environment, or a health issue.
Yes, such a great thing that you're doing. So the applying marketing for people and the planet is not just about helping an individual. Some of the project is about helping them. Of the project is about, supporting some good behavior of, drive safe, eat healthy food. So it's like many aspects that the marketing can actually be applied to. And it's not just always about profit. I can see here clearly that it's about helping the world, helping people, society, and animal. Let's touch more in terms of more detail of, do you have any specific project that you can show us like an example of what you do so that we can see clearly of how you apply the marketing aspect into it?
Yeah, so marketing is basically getting into people's hearts and minds. And you talked about the fact that it's not just changing individual behaviour. Some of those might be examples of the projects I'm doing, but other projects we might be actually thinking about, well, how can we actually build a building that's more supportive to actually reduce energy use? So that might not be putting up little stickers to tell people. It might be more about the equipment itself, understanding how things are used to then actually basically come out with the better technical solutions that would actually drive energy use down without people even actually being aware of it. So we can actually do change at different levels. It might be around people. So is the environment supportive for them? And anyone who's worked in commercial marketing knows really well. Things like product placement, like where we put things, matters. Like you get it in front of people, entice them more, you will sell more. So that same thinking comes into social marketing where we know we can actually build better support. And it might be changing the way other people think, and then that supports the individual to make a healthier choice or to do a different behaviour. Or it might be, like I said, actually creating that built environment structure support. So as simple as we might need to change where the paths are or install a new walking path to get more people walking.
Yes. So building a new building system that it help the world save the power, behavior change to a better change. So it sounds like these are actually not just marketing. It's marketing and some other disciplines. So this is like a cross-discipline work.
Yeah, look, by definition, if you actually look up the definition for social marketing that the International Social Marketing Association has, by definition, we work with other disciplines. So my job is not to be the health expert, environment, or social expert. They're with me and advising me or directly involved in working with it. But I would describe a lot of the job that a marketer does as about understanding people. Can we find consensus? Can we encourage that whole constellation that we're working with to think differently? So quite often now I talk about what are they already doing, and are we now thinking about something new, which across some of these, for some of our colleagues, that's scary. So starting small, can we have a proof of concept, and can we demonstrate that it works? And then in doing so, with the evidence and the data, it usually for most people becomes quite a convincing argument that, oh, that makes sense. We actually need to give this thing a go.
Yes, thank you so much for that. You mentioned about starting small, have a proof of concept. That is actually a tips for creating and potentially creating an impactful work. So if I'd like to ask you, what are some of the steps or tips that I should do in order to start a new impactful work or activity? What would that be?
Oh, that's a great question. Look, it could be as simple as doing a depth interview study. You might choose to go and pick off a theory like Susan Mickey has the COM-B theory. That one took off in popularity in the behaviour change space. And you might be looking at how supportive is the environment, how can people be motivated, and do they have the skills and the ability to do the behaviour? This is what one of my PhD students did in the first year of her PhD study. And she managed to get 1 tonne of e-waste diverted out of landfill. And that was just off the back of that one interview study. She's now taking a much bigger leap forward. So in the second year, starting a bit more of a systems sort of approach. And so she's now drawn together a group of stakeholders who are now helping and supporting her as she reaches forward to say, okay, what can we as a community do to keep batteries out of bins? So I would love to see more effects starting to roll out. We'll see whether that whole process goes well. But it shows you how quick and simple it can actually be, because that student just placed posters and some flyers around campus, created a partnership, and those posters actually encourage people by pointing out that batteries leak and you can save space if you just drop your e-waste into work. And the bins that it went into were for a local charity or non-profit who actually takes the materials and recovers them and resells them. So that's how quick and simple any of us could start to actually demonstrate we can make a difference with our research, and in other words, do impact. Because if you took that PhD student study where she's got a tonne of e-waste out of landfill, the impacts are going to be there's less like leaching of all of the negative materials from e-waste into soils and waterways. We can't quite quantify that yet, but we've already got outcomes. So we're well and truly on the pathway.
Yes, amazing of what, a year 2 PhD project could do, such an amazing things. And we can see that anyone, if we really want to put our heart and thought into it, we can do something good for the world and the planet in this case. Now, if I want to touch back in terms of your motivations, I'm not sure if you noticed that, but my PhD and your PhD actually explore in the same area, which both of us already moved on from there a bit. And if I'm not wrong, you have explored the social marketing aspect for about 14, 15 years now. What is the motivation for you to look in terms of this area? Apart from what you mentioned already, that you went to hear Philip Collins and all that, but what other personal motivation that you may have?
Yeah, I think Park's trying to tell you that we might have both looked at alcohol and sort of the dark side in our PhDs. And I'm not shy to say that, because it was really easy to talk to people about wine. I learned so much from great colleagues and supervisors. And at the end of it, and I did get support and financial backing from Liquorland, but at the end of it, as I'd made a decision to enter academia, I did know I wanted to do something different, and trying to figure out what that was a bit of a challenge. It probably took me about 2 years. But once I found it, that was where my heart has just stayed and has always been, because I'm not going to tell you that the work I don't do is easy. Last week there were complaints and allegations directed to our team. We get some hate mail and nasty comments online that we have to deal with. But we also get great comments as we get cut through and break through, because I can imagine if I speak to some of you, like a lot of us don't like being told to change. And we have to be pretty sensitive in the marketing and communicating and what we're offering and doing. And some of our products do it really well. They're fun, really marketed beautifully. And in other areas, always there's room for improvement. And A good market is going to be asking people about their experiences, and they're going to be trying to maximize what people like, and they're going to be trying to minimize what people don't like.
Yes, that is really great in terms of the motivation background that you give us. Now, if I may ask build on that point, I understand that maybe not as much now, but in the beginning, you may have received a lot of pressure from the academic community about, say, you have to publish in, A star and A and all sorts of things that the motivation, they ask you to do a few things that it may or may not lead to your impactful work. How do you cope with these motivations and then pressure?
I think, look, if you took a systems view, which I've had training for since, to just try and see the bigger picture and learn how to navigate politics and people, we get enormous pressure in the academy to publish in A-star papers, Q1, overseas. They're different systems. It might be the FT top 50 or 100 lists. That pressure has been there for a long time. Don't get me wrong. It definitely wasn't there as I first started, but it has come in harder and stronger year on year. I was always a little bit, I use the words deaf to it, because I knew research is important for our decision makers in government, but they don't look at like rankings. It's not a language they would even understand. And because I'm out many times a week speaking everywhere, I actually know this. And so that gave me the confidence to take the advice of colleagues, but I might describe my academic sort of path as being a little bit unconventional, because I still got promoted and got right through the system. And you're welcome, you'd see it on Google Scholar. I don't necessarily subscribe to all of the top journals, because one of the ways I personally make decisions about where I publish is because I actually want to reach the readership that I'm trying to influence. I understand what I'm doing is evidence. I understand it's helping create the evidence needed for policy settings. And so the way I disseminate my work is very mindful. And anyone who works with me today, when it's junior colleagues I work with, they'll tell you that I always allow them to make the decisions. So if they want to fight to try and get their A-star paper, they can, or their Q1. But at the same time, I know it doesn't make a difference. So if you can sometimes take some of that advice, but at the same time realize that maybe the people giving the advice still don't understand impact as well as we would like them to, because it's the impact that's actually going to start to make you really stand out from the crowd. It will bring funding, and funding brings a bit of freedom that I just can't talk about enough.
Well said there, and I also totally agree with you, especially if we already have a full-time job, you already have a few papers, one or two more will not make any difference to have one or two more A-star, but a real impactful project like this will change some people's life and make a difference in the society. I really appreciate that sense. Now, if we touch in terms of if people want to follow your footsteps, what would be some of the suggestions that you would like to give them in terms of exploring the social marketing?
Look, one of the ways to start to think about it may actually be, if you're at a PhD student level, have you thought about who's on your supervision team? Have you got people within marketing, but then also the issue that you're actually trying to study? So it may be that you need an environmental ecologist. You might be doing health and you actually need a dietitian or nutritionist. You're not going to understand all their language straight away. You're going to learn a lot. Like some of these hard sciences are incredibly gifted scientists who work in these massive laboratories. They work and trained so differently, I think, to how many of the marketing people actually come about training. And from there, ask who has achieved what you'd like to achieve. Can you go and learn from them? I know it's not always possible, but even sometimes taking a hard decision to just be brave enough to ask the question, can I come and have a look? You might be surprised at how often you get the word yes. Doors get opened wide. Many years ago, I had a German researcher who was from the public health background, and he didn't really understand what social marketing was. So he said, look, can I come and work with you? we agreed he'd come for 6 weeks. He stayed for 16. So he was really instrumental in helping us create all sorts of materials. We gave him hands-on experience. And he has gone on to actually do public health interventions that they'll have a bit of a marketing bent as a result of just his time learning another field and trying to dive deep, because I don't think we can begin to know until we've actually kind of jumped in and put it into action.
Yes, there are so many great learning points that you have talked about in the past 15, 20 minutes or so. If I may, can I please ask you to maybe give 2 or 3 points in terms of the value and the learning point that you and maybe your team or other people have received from your project that consider as applying marketing for people and the planet?
I think I continue to learn something new every single day, because people come to me and say, we would like to know if you could, for example, help stop people getting eaten by crocodiles. So then you sort of say, of course we can. And then you have to jump into a whole path of trying to understand that context, who knows what about how has worked effectively before, and it might be with different creatures like sharks. I think the power of what you can pick up through the process, I still haven't stopped learning to this day. But from my standpoint, being brave, we don't know what we don't know. And if you can pull some ego away from it and just lean into, you do come in already with a lot of skills, and just start asking a lot of questions, it's amazing how quick you can build trust from others and grow a network, so that getting a new project becomes easier, because it's as simple as picking up the phone and asking someone who knows someone who then passes you to that person, and you're off and running. So change and trying to break in to make more things happen suddenly just becomes a whole lot easier.
Yes. So the tips I get from you there is to build your network, create trust, and do good things, and be able to reach out and easier to. It might be hard in the beginning, but after you build that foundation, it will be easier, on step 3, 4, and 5 that you can take in the future.
Yeah, so
Personally,
if we were to say it super simply, Park,
yes.
just show up and then keep showing up.
Mm.
And just treat it like a marathon and just build the stamina. It gets easier and it becomes muscle memory.
Yes, well said there. And I still remember the first time I met you, I had a large hot chocolate with you at Griffith University when I first joined. Definitely, I have learned so much from the talk there, and also the time today, and throughout the years I know you as well. So I will definitely leave your contact detail, the information about your social marketing into the description. If anyone like to get to know more of Sharyn, we will be able to, they will be able to follow you there. One last question of the day, which is a reflection. So basically a reflection on one key aspect that you think you did well and lead you to where you are today.
Oof, that's a really tough question. I think just daring to dream and trying to jump in and have a go might be the very thing that's helped achieve what we have today. I am not a story of just me. It has always been a we. There's been a team behind me for such a long time. And I think I could speak, certainly for me, but a few of us, I don't think we ever thought we would hit this level of reach, capacity, and what we're doing. And just having a go, I think, was the one thing that once I'd sort of made that firm decision, I will be a social marketer, has stood me in good stead.
You and your team have done so much, and such an amazing, portfolio and things that you have done across the year. And I love the part of daring to dreams. So this is Apply Marketing for People and the Planet with Professor Sharyn Rundle-Thiele. Thank you so much, Sharyn, for your time today.
You're welcome. Thanks again, Park.
Thank you so much.